Hi class, and welcome to our 2.4 Part 2 notes, Ratio in the Real World. Today we're going to be talking about percent increase and decrease. Let's get started. The first thing that we must remember is that a percent essentially means part of 100. In the real world, when costs change, numbers change, we can recognize those things as percent changes. In order to calculate a percent change, we would need to subtract the new value minus the old value and divide that number by the old value. Then multiply by 100. When we multiply by 100, this is going to give us our percent. Two things that are important to remember when solving percent increase and decrease problems is that when a new value is greater than the old value, we would call that a percentage increase. But when a new value is less than the old value, it's called a percentage decrease. Now let's look at two of our example problems and solve them. The workers at the Polo outlet store receive an increase in pay from $12 per hour to $15 per hour. What is the percent change? The first thing I'm going to do is identify my new cost or my new value and my old value. I know that $12 was the old value and 15 is my new value. Now that I know my value, I'm going to plug that into my equation. So I'm going to set that up by saying 15 minus 12 divided by 12. Now, if I simplify that, that's going to give me 3 over 12. And when I divide that in a calculator and get a decimal, I'm going to get 0.25. Last but not least, we're going to need to multiply our amount that we got here by 100. And that's going to give us 25%. Now, is this an increase or a decrease? Well, this problem tells us in the problem that the store workers received an increase. So we can write that our final answer as a 25% increase. Now let's look at our next problem. The price of a basketball at Foot Locker dropped from $25 to $20. What was the percent change? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is identify my old value and my new value. And then I'm going to plug that into my equation. When I plug this into my equation, I'm going to end up with $20 minus $25 divided by $25. Now, when I solve that out, 20 minus 25 is going to be negative $5. I'm going to tell you what to do with that negative in a moment, but we would have negative $5 over 25. And when I actually divide negative 5 divided by 25, that's going to give me negative 0.2. Okay? Now, here's the thing with that negative symbol. When the result here is negative, we're actually going to remove the sign, and when we get our percent, we're going to call that a decrease. Okay? So, jumping right back into the problem, we're not done yet. Remember, whatever we get from setting and plugging everything into our formula, we have to multiply by 100 to get our percent. When we multiply by 100, that's going to give us 20%. And remember what we said here? This is going to represent a 20% decrease. Okay? Now, we know it's a decrease because even the problem says that the price of the basketball dropped. And when something drops, that's definitely decrease. So our final answer would not be negative 20 because percents in this case will not be negative. We would take that negative symbol and we will recognize that this represents a 20% decrease. Now we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to leave this bottom problem for you to solve when we are finished with the video, but let's run to the back and solve one of the problems on the back of our notes. In these example problems, I want you to find the percent change to the nearest percent. Then state if there was an increase or a decrease. Okay, so using the same formula, let's look at number 1. If we go from 45 feet to 92 feet, what is the percent change? The first thing I'm going to do is identify my old value and my new value. And then I'm going to plug it into my equation. Remember, it's going to be new value minus the old value divided by the old value. So it looks something like this. 92 minus 45 divided by 45, which is going to give us 47 divided by 45, which is going to give us 1.04444444 if you put it in the calculator. So I'm going to round it to the nearest tenth, okay? Remember, I'm not done yet because I have to take whatever this is and multiply it by 100. And when I multiply this by 100, I'm going to end up with 104%. Now, since we went from a smaller to larger number, this would be a 104% increase. And this is how I want you to solve the rest of the problems. Okay? So, go ahead and complete the rest of the problems on our note sheet. You can check your work with me or see a link on the task sheet website. See ya!